Hello everyone, welcome to the 2024 CyberForce competition. This is the C-suite fireside chat, if you couldn't tell by the nice ambiance that I quickly put together before this meeting. Today's talk will be just about the C-suite. So if you have questions in regards to rules in general, logistics about the competition, things that you don't feel like make sense about what I've sent out, or you would just like to complain, save that for Thursday. That's the time that you can complain to me directly, or you can send me an email. But today we're dedicating this hour to the C-suite because that is honestly your first required pre-competition material. I want to first state that I made a big mistake by not providing the accurate tasks. So I apologize. I don't think it's a huge uplift for you all, as it was just sent out yesterday. We updated it today. And Patrick, Wyatt, and everyone else will go over the slight change in there. But I think it will answer for those of you who did put tickets in, articulate those changes for you. I will be in the background helping, hopefully, to answer any questions that do come up in chat. But otherwise, I'm going to turn the floor over to Patrick, Ann, and Wyatt.
Turn my video on here. And then I'll share my screen too, because I want to bring up the scenario and the rubric and everything. And that always, redoes all the screens I have nice on my desktop right now. So thanks again for participating in CyberForce. You'll get a lot of thank yous. It is important. We enjoy working this. We have a lot of volunteers at the labs who dedicate time to judging you all and your hard work, and they enjoy it as well. So it's impressive to see the work that goes in and the results that we get out of it. I love the video portion of this because one thing that I stress over and over and over again to our new hires, and Wyatt Kershaw, who's joining and helping this year as well, who's a new face, is one of those new hires, but he gets it, is that we can't forget to remember the security part of cybersecurity. And these videos really hammer that home, that security is largely about risk and tolerance for risk and balancing risk. And so the videos really force you to think about that, because you don't get to talk about tools and vulnerabilities of what you actually did on the network. You need to talk at a programmatic level of how a company, in this case, an energy company, is going to manage those risks. So let me share my screen. And again, Amanda, thank you for delaying complaints, because I don't like to field complaints. It makes me feel bad. But again, the Discord is open for questions as well. So we appreciate lots of questions as they come up. If you're confused, it's not meant to be an easy, straightforward task to brief a C-suite, right? So we expect there to be confusion. We expect the videos to reflect that, but we always get really good, professionally done videos, like what I would expect to see an actual cybersecurity team do to a C-suite in a meeting, especially in this scenario. And we'll talk about the scenario. You've all seen it, but I just want to talk about it a little bit. I'm not going to read it to you, so we can kind of ground our discussion. So this year's scenario, we've got a wind energy company that's been compromised. And as part of that compromise, they're still seeing degraded service to some government facilities, to some data centers, and of course, that affects the bottom line, right? So you can imagine all the ways. One, there's resources being spent on recovery efforts. There's unknown security posture as far as adversaries go, and the core business just isn't operating as normal, and there's impacts to that. And so that's kind of the overall scenario this year. Of course, there's some recommendations from your ISAC service, security service, that they recommend identifying key dependencies within the area responsibility, which is a service area for the energy company, identifying some resources and data sets that might be impacted. Again, there's a data center that's running some AI stuff. They want you to remediate all the known vulnerabilities within the system, of course, recovering from that, and ensure that the service inventories are up to date and reflect that. So the C-suite video, again, 2,000 points, is important because we need to understand, you can understand the scenario of an energy company with degraded service, their business is at risk, they've got big clients within that energy or within that area of operation. And so, again, the task is to create a 5-minute video that's a presentation to the C-suite that highlights these 5 things, these discussion points, right? So what are the risks to the energy company, Energia Ventosa? What's the risk to their business if these facilities keep getting degraded service? What's the summary of your strategy to reduce those risks? What are some recommendations to protect your infrastructure and to sustain your business continuity? And what's the prognosis in the future if instead of implementing recommendations, that the risk is accepted, right? So there's, the C-suite is measuring the current impacts, but a discussion of what some future impacts could be as well, because accepting risk is also an option the C-suite might want to take. And so you need to be able to have that discussion point as well and give them the information they need. The tasking, again, 5-minute video. And I highlighted this part here. Make sure that you acknowledge the contributions from all your team members, even if they don't show up on the video. It's important. We like to see that. We want to know what everybody is doing. This is not a task that you give to 1 or 2 people and they go off and do it. You don't have to have everybody on video, but recognizing the contributions of all the team members is critical to this, and you'll be scored on your ability to do that. Talk about the risks posed to the company and its bottom line. Again, back to business risks. If as a result of the degraded energy output. Provide a strategy or recommendation for a strategy to the C-suite to reduce these business risks as part of the ongoing efforts, right? So as you can imagine, fixing the problem, right, getting the energy output back to its normal output is obvious. Getting rid of the compromise is obvious, but there's other considerations. Do we want this to happen again in the future? Do we want to try to detect what happened, right? There's other things to consider that the C-suite knows they're going to have to pay for, but they don't know where to start or what to do. And then provide some high priority actions that you will implement to improve the overall security posture. Again, it even states here, and you'll see it multiple times, the C-suite is a non-technical audience. That doesn't mean that you talk down to them or you just convey cybersecurity concepts in an easier way. What it really means is that, one, yes, they're not going to understand your technical jargon, but you need to speak their language and give them the information they need to make decisions. They're the ones who are writing checks. And so they have to make hard decisions. They can't say all the cybersecurity all the time. They can't say buy all the most expensive appliances or services. They have a limited budget, and they need the high priority actions so that the lower priority ones, they're not gonna fund because they literally can't. And again, it even calls that out again. You don't have a big budget. You should be identifying the high priority actions that you and your team can accomplish using free open source tools, sometimes paid if it's minimal, so they can actually afford this. A lot of their budget is going towards recovering and getting their operation back to normal. And so, as we see a lot in industry, the cybersecurity budget takes a hit on that. Some of these could include staff communication, training, talk about resources that you will need, cost your actions, right? You're not going to be able to be extremely specific, but you should be able to give the C-suite some ballparks. The more information they have, the better decisions they can make, and the more likely it is that the work that you need to do is going to get funded. That's how these things work, and that's how we improve cybersecurity posture overall, is being able to convey to C-suite type people of what the costs are and what they're going to get in return for that, which should be lower business risk. We talked about this before. What are the costs of doing nothing? That is something to consider. That's not meant to scare them. That's meant for them to balance the cost of doing nothing towards the cost of doing something. If the cost of doing nothing is lower, and they're still willing to accept that risk, they might want to do that. And that's an option you need to present to them. So I want to talk a little bit about why we're tasking you to do this video. That's very much not in the weeds of what you think of technical cybersecurity. So, it shows us some things about the overall state of your competition team, right? These videos show us that you understand how to map cybersecurity risk to core business risks, and you understand those core business risks. Mitigations and cybersecurity programs need to be funded. They need to show a return on investment. These videos help show us that you can interact professionally in a professional environment. We don't expect you to have suits on in these videos, right? But you should be dressed in a business-like professional. Maybe not a ripped t-shirt. Not super expensive, but something that you could wear to work as an engineer. These videos show that you have thought about your actions that actually reduce risk, and that you could convey those types of actions to a non-technical audience in the language that, one, they can understand, and two, that gives them the information they need to make decisions. These videos show that you've given thought to and can convey how to prioritize actions. If everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. That's why we ask you to be concise and to limit your recommendations. These videos show that you can respond to the specific concerns of the stakeholders. they might be worried about issues that your team doesn't prioritize. And it's your job to figure out why there's a disconnect there. They might not understand the cybersecurity concerns and the risks, or they know more about the core business concerns than your organization does in the cybersecurity. These videos show that you can be concise, right? You've got 5 minutes with the C-suite. That's all the time they can give you. You don't have an hour to talk about your whole cybersecurity program and plan. You need to be concise, and that's why we limit this to 5 minutes. So some of the things that we're looking for, and I'll share the rubric in a minute. But again, we are judging the videos, and our volunteers who score these videos are very good at putting themselves in the role of a CEO, CIO, CFO, in trying to determine a couple things. As a C-suite, what resources are we going to allocate to our cybersecurity? What is our current business risk when it comes to cybersecurity? And what do we need to do when we leave this room? That's what they're concerned about. That's what they want to know. So we've seen a lot of great videos over the years. A couple things to keep in mind for success. Remember your audience, just talked about. Carefully look at the task that I just went over and the rubric. Refer to the rubric. It tells you exactly what we're looking for and how we're going to score these videos. And watch the sample videos that are provided as well, which will be helpful. Pause for any quick questions.
And I'll chime in on those sample videos. Note those are in a different scenario. So don't expect them to look at it because we wouldn't want to give you the answer, right?
Right.
But they give you examples so that you can learn from them what our expectations are for this video.
Yeah, and that's a good point. In the task changes from year to year, not just a scenario, right? So I wouldn't take the examples of good videos and just copy their outline. Make sure you're following the tasking that's been given to you. But you can see, but it's really for the professionalization in the good videos, the timing, the conciseness, and a lot of the same elements are going to be there that we'll be judging you on. So they're really good to watch.
And there's bad videos too, and if you're not laughing at them, you may need to study them more. Just saying, if they don't make you laugh, you should probably study them.
Okay, yeah, we have a question from Jared Yearsley at CBC.
Yeah, okay. Will audio quality or background noises be included in the grading or rubric score?
So we don't expect you to have professional video editing software. But if the background noise is distracting or it's because of things that you can control, if your dog is barking uncontrollably in the background, that's likely going to affect the quality of presentation score. But you don't need to hire a boom mic operator for this video. Good question, Jared. Any others? Before I move on to the rubric.
I have one
Okay.
more.
Yeah, go ahead, Jared.
What about attire?
Yeah, so again, please don't go out and buy matching suits for your team. Something that's, the C-suite, this C-suite in particular, they know that you are a team of cybersecurity engineers, and they don't expect you to be dressed up. They expect you to be dressed professionally, like what you would wear to work.
And note that you don't have to show your faces if it's hard to get a camera,
Right.
etc. We understand. We want to hear it from at least two voices. But if you are not able to show yourself, that's okay. We understand. And PowerPoint is a wonderful tool and provides the opportunity for you to just put your little face down there if you've got a camera. But if not, to just record voice over your PowerPoint slides. And yes, Amanda, as she pointed out, don't put any school apparel in there. We don't want to bias our scorers one way or the other. So do keep it agnostic. If you want to do Team 72 is awesome in the background, I can't say anything on that, but we don't want to see CBC is awesome in the background. Okay, so keep it as school agnostic as possible. And yes, no camera does not negatively affect your score. In fact, if you look at the whole videos, you will see that there's portions in there where there is no video, because we actually put one together from several examples to show you different possibilities.
Some of our best submissions last year didn't have video. It was just voiceover.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly fine.
Those who are viewing your video, of course, are getting it in video format. You can either do it from the point of view, we're presenting in person and you're just taking a recording of this, and that'll be fine. Or you can do it as, hey, this is a virtual presentation, but you should pretend there's somebody live in front of you. You obviously won't have an opportunity to do a Q&A with them. You don't need to pretend. I've seen a couple of videos where people were like, and now we'll entertain questions. You don't need to do that. We want you to use your 5 minutes to address the scenario. Use it well. If you find you're coming in short, you probably need to look at your justifications a little more, right? So
They last year, most of the teams treated it as if they were giving a meeting over Teams.
Yep.
They had, and they didn't go up in front of a whiteboard and try to maintain the facade of it being a live presentation, and that's just fine. If you want to do that, you can, but as like Ann said, the content is more important.
no, you can record separately and edit it all together. That's fine. That's just like if you were in 4 different, whatever places presenting on a Teams or a Zoom or whatever. It's fine. And in fact, we've had teams that used Zoom and did their presentation via Zoom and just recorded it, and that works fine too. And the sample videos, Amanda will have to speak to where she puts those so you can see them.
Are they different than last year's?
Nope, they're the same as last year's. We didn't update them this year.
All right, then I will send those out there in our YouTube channel, but I think they're privately sent.
Thank you very much.
I thought that.
Okay.
Well,
However,
you
both
don't
should
want to put anybody to sleep on your financial cost benefit analysis. That financial guy is really into it, but the CISO is like, please, could we just get on to the good stuff? All right, so it's a balance, right?
Okay, let's and feel free to keep asking questions. We'll address them. I want to move on to the rubric. Again, not going to go into every cell of the rubric, but I want to point out some things and kind of talk about how we judge these videos. So for every category, you can see the percentage of scoring. So presentation time, required elements, that's 2% of your score. Quality of presentation, 8% of your score. So both those things add up to 10. which adds up. So the presentation time required elements, I just want to go over the exemplary because this is one that's very easy to attain, and you all should be able to get a 4 on presentation time, right? Make sure you include your team ID because it's not fun for us to try to track down who submitted the video. And we have to do a couple of those every year. Approximately 5 minutes. If it's 5 minutes and 5 seconds, you're probably fine, right? About 5 minutes. Try not to go into the 6-minute territory. If it's significantly less than 5 minutes, you probably haven't conveyed all the information you need to. We talked about having at least 2 active team members in the presentation and also clear acknowledgement of contributions. So those are requirements to get a 4 on presentation time and required elements, which is only 2%, but that's really easy. I'm really hoping that we get a high percentage of 4s for this category this year. I want to skip down to quality of presentation, the other 8% of that 10. Again, appropriate dress code, that is if your team members are on camera, which we talked about. And any visual aids that you use have a consistent and professional appearance. Jared asked you a good question about visual and audio distractions. If it's significant, if it's something that you can control, that's where your score will be lowered here. No, if you have 2 people in the video, Jared, that's fine. As long as you acknowledge everybody on your team and their contributions to the work. But you want at least 2. So those are the 2 easy categories, and we really want to get as many 4s as possible. What if only 2 people work on the video total? You should have contributions from your entire team. It's a team effort. How should we mention other Yeah, usually we like to see a call out. It doesn't usually take very much time to the team members, and very short description of how they contributed as well. An uncommented slide would work, but it'd be better to audibly call them out. And I believe the good example video that are being sent out should have an example of that as well. Risk to core business, our first 30% category. Clear summary of the business financial risks. What are their risks in terms of money? Yes, there's other considerations when you talk about risk, but that's something they can measure and make decisions on. And then identifying how the degraded energy output will affect business success. So tying it back to some of their stakeholder priorities. They're very worried about those government facilities. So how the degraded service to those facilities going to affect their business? And again, this presentation should be understandable to that C-suite in a language that, 1, they understand, and 2, they're looking for. Again, if you just talk about business risks without tying them to the compromise or tying them to their concerns, if they're in isolation, you'll get that's more proficient. If you include some jargon, but not very much, again, that'll knock you down to a 3. And you can see, again, if we're just touching upon risks, barely talking about it, not even mentioning the government facility, we're going to keep getting knocked down and down. So I won't, like I said, I won't go through all these cells, but I do want to go through what a 4 looks like. Your strategy to reduce risks. My personal opinion is this is the hardest category, but it's really important. Strategy is one of those words that's I think is overused, but think of strategy as a something that should drive decision making in the future when you don't know what those decision points are yet. It's different than a list of things to do, right? A list of things to do are high priority recommendations. A strategy is what's our overall decision making framework for reducing risk? So provide a complete strategy to reduce risk. So these should be more long-term action items. Those action items should help them decide what short-term actions to do in the future. But really thinking out, you know, how are we going to prevent this in the future? How are we going to reduce our business risk in the long run? What's the strategy? And it should tie back to the business risks that you identify in the last category. They really should be tied together. Again, if they're not related, if you can't tie your strategy to the business risks and what the C-suite cares about, then those are the types of things that you'll lose points on in strategy. Or if there's not long-term thinking as well. Some of the high priority recommendations, again, you have 5 minutes. You're also limited on the number of recommendations you can give. And so we don't want you talking really fast so you can cram in as many things as possible. Think about what the high priority actions are to improve security and protect their business continuity and to reduce their risks. Not only should you provide those high priority actions, you should give some reasoning for those actions. And why they are tied back to core business continuity and business success. Again, there should be a ballpark on what those, what kind of resources those actions require. Again, keeping in mind that there's not a huge budget. In fact, if you do something like, say, we recommend buying a huge appliance for logging, and then a service that will go through those logs and identify threats, right? That's a cool thing that would probably work. It's also expensive. And so if your team identifies an appliance or a service to buy that's extremely expensive, that's something that would knock you down into the developing area. So that's really what the rubric looks like. I would shoot for the exemplary items here on the right, because that's what we look for when we judge these videos. We are looking for, we assume that all the videos are going to be 4s for everything. And then when we see something that isn't quite there, then we start going to the left and seeing where that fits. And so we're going to start here when we judge these videos. So I recommend that you start there as well and make sure you hit all of these. All right. I see the questions are flying. but they're also being answered. So any other questions on the rubric or anything else at all? We can keep going as long as there's questions being asked.
I'm going to pivot us for a minute to go over some mundane things. So, students, since I know you've looked at this, when is the C-suite panel video due? Put it in the chat.
What
Now they're
time?
all looking. They apparently had not looked. Have they looked? Let's see. Oh, now we've got it. The final answer there, 8 p.m. Pacific time. Yep, you need to be specific. Very good. And if for whatever reason you've had a catastrophe and you missed the 8 p.m. or 8 a.m., excuse me, 8 a.m., don't do p.m., 8 a.m. Pacific time on the 29th, 28th. See, I'm trying to mix you up. What is your late submission deadline? It's a.m. It is a.m. We send them out to the volunteers at noon. Yeah, you shouldn't need the late, but if you do, the worst case scenario happens 8 a.m. on November 1st. So it will help you to know that we send them out to the volunteers. They get trained shortly after you turn them in, and we send them out. That period of time is for us to organize and assign them, and then they get them by noon that day and start scoring. Okay. So there's a reason we have to have them, because we get all of this scored before competition, and we're relying on similar sets of volunteers. So there's some working that first week, and then you'll have security documentation, which is in a different Fireside chat, that will be scored the following week. So there's good reason for this. Now, another question for you. What would be the tragedy of not turning in one at all? Yes, 0 points for it, which could lead to losing. Yes, you are losing a lot of points on your overall score. So it's a total points for the C-suite panel brief of 1,000. Total for orange team is 2,000, but for the C-suite itself, it is 1,000 points. You don't want to start with a negative 1,000 points on your score, right? Just points you can't earn. It doesn't seem like much at the time, but it is. You have time now when you can't access things, so use this time wisely and get that C-suite video done. And yes, as Patrick pointed out, your late score is a 25% penalty, so that you're at 750 that you're starting. So for any reason you're having to turn it in late, it should be because you realize that you're going to be so far down, and you can retrieve those points by turning it in late. So if you think you're only going to score 500, and in the next few days you can get it up so that you would have a perfect score and still get 750, that would be worth it, right? But if you're going to turn it in and you think you're only going to get 800 instead of 1,000, you'd be better off turning it in on time. Kind of weighing those risks, right? Winners are, as Amanda points out, typically within hundreds of points, so everything counts. Last year, we had, for the first time, a team that scored a perfect video and a perfect security documentation. We had never seen the same team get perfect in both. So there's a goal for you. Get perfect in both. All right. Any questions? Other the little things like, not putting your school in there, making sure that you've got your team number on there. All of those are also really important. I know it looks like it's just 2% or 8%, but that adds up, right? So really assign somebody to be looking at all those details. No, security documentation is not due on the 28th. That's why you don't have any information on it yet. I don't think you have information on it yet. Do they, Amanda?
They do not.
Yeah, you don't have information on that. We give you this ahead of time, so while you're going, why can't we work on anything? You have something to work on. So we used to give it to you all at once. All right, other questions? And note that security documentation does not follow the same pattern of late. Late for security documentation will be earlier than late submittal for this. We have a little bit more time on this, so. So the document you were shown today is in Discord. The update was provided today. Where else is it, Amanda? Is that the place to get it?
So you've received 2 versions of this. So I've sent out an email twice now. So everyone needs to save CyberForce competition at anl.gov as a safe email, because that is what you're going to get stuff from, minus your AWS credentials, which will come from me directly. If you decide to spam, delete those emails, that's personally on you as a student, as a school, as a mentor. I try to send it as a listserv, so I know some schools do not love listservs, but I also don't like to BCC 600 plus people the day that Argonne decides to block me on that, thinking I'm spamming the world. But that was sent yesterday morning, and then an update today at when Anne sent me the fire bill. That was sent out in Discord and GitHub at, I'll say 3 p.m. Central Time. So I did not send it in an email. I don't send anything, any documents in an email other than an agenda. So all of it is updated in our GitHub.
Yeah, and the update provides more clarity and more alignment between the scoring rubric and your task, because it is really important for our scorers that there be as strong an alignment as we can possibly create, because it makes it easier for them to score, and therefore it also makes it easier for you to hit the target. We only wish we had that clear of a target when we have to go present for our bosses, right, guys? Wouldn't it be nice if they gave us a rubric?
Go ahead, Jordan.
Hey, Miss Amanda.
That's me.
I have a quick question. One of my teammates would no longer be available to participate in the competition. Is there anything I would need to do on my end, or send an email to you about it?
Just send me an email with the name.
Okay, I got you.
Thank you. I have already provided the links for the updated videos in Discord. They are pinned for people and they have been put in the chat here. So I know you probably can't see them anymore since things have been asked and placed in there. But so people have that. To answer the question, I don't know that people have stayed out loud. You will be submitting these as a TXT file. Please don't put it in a random PDF file. I cannot tell you how many times I've had to make an edit PDF, pull it out, put it in a TXT or a Word doc for people. It just makes it simpler for all of us so we can copy a TXT file. So we can put them in Excel of all 95 teams for our scoring folks. So it's easier. But all you'll do is put the YouTube link or the box link or wherever you decide to put your video. So you'll submit it into Scoreboard. Yes. So let's quickly, you don't have access to the Scoreboard yet. By probably tomorrow or Thursday, you'll get an email from me on how to make an account in our Scoreboard. And so then you'll be able to do that come later on this week. So again, what you'll just simply do is you will make a TXT file, you'll put the public link available to it, and then you'll submit that into the Scoreboard so that we can pull it down. And then our scorers will be able to do that. Please, please, please make sure that you triple check. Have your mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, a professor, someone check the link to make sure it works. That's not you. That's not on your school network. That's not from the @whatever.edu, because I don't know how many times Ann and I have emailed and other people have emailed to say, hey, we can't get it. If you're gonna use Google Drive, make sure that it's a public link, that someone doesn't have to request access into it. If you're going to use another version of whatever equivalent to a Google Drive is, it needs to be a public link. We're not gonna email people and ask everyone for access. Again, it's only for a short period of time, and I promise you, no one's looking for you. But it's just convenience for us. That's why I say you can make a YouTube unlisted, just like I did for these YouTube videos. And that way only the people who have the link will be able to see it. That's our best option for you.
Yeah, do try to use the most common ways of doing this, Google Drive, video, YouTube, because we've had a couple that use something different, very different, and it's harder for some of our scorers who may not be as tech savvy as some of you, believe it or not. Often our scorers are older folks, and they just may have a little bit of trouble navigating around things. So as Amanda said, have your great Aunt Sally or your Tia Margarita try it out. If they can do it, probably our scorers can do it, right? Like have a bunch of people try it and make sure the link's working. Amanda, remind me, didn't we offer penalty points for Rickroll videos last year?
We did. We did penalty
yeah.
points for that.
Yeah. So don't give us garbage. You know, don't waste our time. We will have penalty points assigned for that. Okay. Just say it.
Equal to the point of saying that, as I mentioned before, every point matters when it comes to this competition. So whether or not you are in the top or in the middle or at the bottom, understand our goal for this is that you learn something. So as much as some of you probably are hating the fact that we are asking you to do a presentation, understand to the point, it is so necessary at the end of the day when you get to your job. As my sure, bud, I'm on a call. Sorry. Anyways, to the point, every competition or every job that you're going to get, you're going to need to have to speak to someone in a different position and explain what you're doing in a different manner that you likely would talk to your normal team on a regular day basis. That is the purpose of this competition, is you're going to have to get outside of your shell in a different lane multiple times. So that's why we have it here. And so each point is worth something. And we've had top 10 that are literally spread out in less than 1,000 points from each other. So to not do it because you just don't want to talk would be such a waste, because you don't know whether or not you could make or break being in a certain spot by just not doing it. So if you really can't, just do, like, turn it in late if it's a bad timing for your team. It's better to be late than to turn in, like Ann said, a Rickroll, or just, you know, turn in some unfortunate like hot garbage ahead of time, because 750 points is better than getting really like 0 points because you decided to just throw something together.
So I have a question for Wyatt here. Wyatt is a recent hire, correct, Wyatt? Did you have to do a presentation for your interview?
Man, yeah, did I ever? Thanks, Patrick.
We're doing you a favor. Believe it or not, we are doing you a favor.
I
Getting
didn't do
you
a
more
presentation.
comfortable.
I did a gauntlet. It was so yeah, that happens. It's one of the most proficient ways to, you know, show your work, show what you can do, and display, put it on display for people who, you know, aren't necessarily subject matter in exactly what you're doing, but understand, you know, technical work in general. And so if you can explain clearly and put things, you know, professionally in a presentation, it communicates very effectively. So one of the best ways to do it.
Thank you, Wyatt. Yes, and you may say risk. Why do I have to talk about risk? I can tell you, working in a national lab, I have very few days that go by without somebody mentioning the word risk. It is huge. It is extremely important, especially in cybersecurity, to understand what risk means, how it has impact, all of the things that you're demonstrating in this video. And that doesn't mean you can't have a little fun. Imagine if we get called up in front of our bosses or our bosses' bosses, this is an opportunity for us to show that we're capable. It may get us extra points. It may get us a bigger raise. those sorts of things. We can also be a little bit of ourselves, throw a little humor in there. That's okay. You don't have to be all doom and gloom. But you also don't want to be silly. You don't want to, you've got to find that line. Where are you still having fun? And where are you pushing the limit that the boss is like, oh gosh, please get this guy out of here, right? So think about that.
I will also mention, so I know some of you may be asking, how do I actually pronounce this, my company's name, since you've been provided the logos, which you'll need later and whatnot. It's Energia Ventosa. You can look up why it's named that, where the background comes in, but that is how you pronounce it. If you mess it up, I don't think anyone's gonna know the wiser, but that is what your company is called. If you would like, you can sure use the logo if you'd like on your slide. They're available to you in the GitHub. If you'd like to make it all directed on that, it would probably make your life a lot simpler. No, you won't lose points if you don't. But again, that's how you pronounce it. Again, if you don't understand why the intelligence bulletin does not call out that, I would encourage you to look up what intelligence bulletins and information sharing analysis centers do and why it's not called out, and then why specifically then the C-suite is calling back to that, and then why it's more specific in your scenario. So that's what I have for you, because I do know some of you asked if there was an 001 and more information, and I just said, you're on the case. So that's where we're at for it.
Somebody wanted you to say it again.
Energia Ventosa.
You will not lose points if you don't use the logo, but it's always helpful. Your points may be affected if you do not use professional looking slides or backgrounds, that sort of thing. And you don't have to use slides. We've had teams every year that find a room, a professional type looking room, or they just use their Zoom backgrounds and they present their information. So either is fine.
So if you're unclear, I would say, I'm not certain how people feel, but my Pokemon drawings behind me may be an up or down. I would say the background on Patrick, it calls out 3 different schools. It may be confusing, but equally, I would probably say that they could figure out that we probably don't have Montana, and I can't read where the Bobcats are from, but we probably have Idaho and there. So, I mean, they could probably guess what school potentially that we're coming from. So don't have school paraphernalia behind it. Just so that people have the understanding of schools and where we're at. If nothing else, we would probably say, like, Patrick, if he was on our team, we would ask him to blur his background, if nothing else, if he didn't have a screen like Anne has or something like that. Very simple. All of us probably have Teams or Zoom like we're on or something like that now with school, and everyone's favorite thing, or Google Chat.
Information security definitions. If you are using them, make sure that you are providing enough information on them. Don't assume that your audience knows, and I wouldn't overload it. You're going to get your financial guy who knows nothing about cybersecurity. He's going to be taking a nap, and you don't want him taking a nap. And the perfect score video, yeah, you could reach out to the team from last year. It's noted the team that got a perfect score on both. But you do have examples of very good videos with some annotations on it that tell you what makes it better. So. Oh, and by the way, David or Patrick, what was that? Team 46. I want to watch their videos. They said it'll be glorious.
Okay. I'll personally look at that one.
Question
Looking forward to it.
from folks here on the call.
If your video is really good, we probably end up watching it more than once. So just saying.
Well, all videos get looked at more than once. Let's be honest here.
Yeah, but I mean, individually, like we may be like, oh, this one was really good. Oh, how does that compare to this one? Are we, because we're trying to make sure that we're scoring you both appropriately. It's completely possible you get the same score. That happens. Like there wasn't only one perfect video last year. Uh-oh.
I'm sorry. I'm
Keep
sorry.
guessing.
Alrighty. Well, if there is more questions, feel free to throw them in Discord throughout the time. If you're still confused on something, now's the time you can throw in a ticket for something. If there's still something, please don't be upset though. If it can be fully called out in the rules, whether it's a C-suite or the rules and expectations document, I might just close the ticket because you are all adults, you can all read. So this is the expectation I set forth for my full-timers. This is the expectation I set forth for you all. I do know that document is dense, but I do purposely pull out the C-suite just for you, as I'm a kind human being these days for you all. And I fixed the problem and reposted it. So, but in the meantime, you have 2 more days to read that full expectations document because, you never know. You might want to join me on Thursday night, and I hope to see you all there, complaints and all. And I, look forward to hearing them all, and I will answer everyone's questions then. Otherwise, again, if you have questions on C-suite, we're here for a few more minutes, but otherwise we'll see you on Discord for anything else that you guys might have. Have a good night, everyone.